Welcome to Inspire West Michigan, the podcast that celebrates the visionaries, change makers, and business leaders shaping our region. Whether you're a fellow entrepreneur, emerging leader, or curious community member, Inspire West Michigan delivers content that informs, uplifts, and empowers. In each episode, we'll go behind the scenes with local CEOs, presidents, and entrepreneurs to uncover the stories, strategies, and values that drive their success and inspire our communities. From Grand Haven to Grand Rapids and beyond, this is Inspire West Michigan. Let's dig in. Most communities are held together by a surprisingly small number of people. They're the ones who are serving on boards, coaching teams, volunteering, solving problems, and stepping up when others step back. Today's guest is one of those people. Josh Brugger is the owner of BruggerHouse Builders and an Ottawa County commissioner. But most importantly, he's someone who believes that leadership starts with a simple question. If not me, then who? This is a conversation about service, stewardship, and why waiting for the world to change is never a good strategy. Thanks for joining me today, Josh.
Thank you, Avi.
You have a lot going on. You are absolutely one of those people who doesn't sit on his hands well.
No, you're absolutely right. Do not sit on my hands very well.
No,
Yeah.
but let's start kind of at the beginning, let's say, of your career. You went to Hope College.
Yep.
Majored in political science. Why
You got it.
political science?
Yeah, political science. Primarily because it was a fascinating subject area for me. It's the perfect blend of government meets history,
Yeah.
meets I would call it activism at the, as far as the United States and the Revolutionary War goes. And as we come up on the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence, I love the fact that my education brought me a little bit more of a depth and understanding of our nation's history.
Yeah.
And so just a very, very fascinating area of study for me. And it has turned out to apply in the real world.
Absolutely.
That liberal arts education that I got from Hope College, sometimes the joke is that it doesn't necessarily apply in the real world. It took me a few years to get there, but landing in public service with government organizations in one facet or another eventually came along, and I've been very grateful for that degree.
What did you imagine yourself doing at that point when you're fresh on campus at Hope College?
Yeah, the impetus for me really with that political science degree, love the area of study, as I said, but ultimately I wanted to become an attorney.
Yeah? Okay.
I would love to say that I was as altruistic as I am now. I think maybe that's opposite of most people's, arc in their journey. But at that time, I really just wanted to get a job that could pay a lot of money. I knew that doctors and lawyers drove fancy cars, and I wanted a fancy car and a big house.
Certainly a better income than a history teacher.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, history
Yeah.
teacher or a poli-sci
or
professor or whatever it may be.
Something,
yeah.
right. So law school was what you believed to be on the horizon at that time.
You got it.
Yeah.
And honestly, I had a moment with God, I guess you'd call it a come to Jesus moment, where it became very apparent to me that my priorities were a little bit askewed and that God had different plans.
Yeah. So when did you first feel like law school might not be where you land and start thinking about how you play this out in a different direction?
Sure. I might as well share the story. The moment for me, again, law school was a means to an end to making money. Also did appreciate, and I do still appreciate, the law and the study of. But I spent my summers, grew up in Grand Haven, Michigan, on the shores of Lake Michigan. Going to the beach was a frequent activity for us. I worked at a restaurant called Snug Harbor. It is still here today.
It is.
Interesting enough, small town Americana. My son now works at the same restaurant that I worked at 20-some years ago. But between my freshman and sophomore years at Hope College, may have been sophomore to junior. I think it was freshman to sophomore. Anyway, I came back to Grand Haven, did the summer thing. At that point, I was bartending at the tiki bar on the deck. Spending my days at the beach, my nights at the bar, which sounds awful, except I was on the other side serving, I suppose.
Right.
I'm not sure if that sounds any better,
Yeah,
actually,
I
if I think about
it's
it.
all right.
Yeah. And I got back from summer break, and we were at a gathering on Hope College's campus in what's called the Pine Grove. It's an outdoor area in between all of the campus buildings. And at that time, it was actually an outdoor chapel service. And it was kind of the time where we all caught up with our friends that we hadn't seen all summer. And, hey, how was your summer? What did you do? I ended up having a conversation with another guy. His name is Josh as well. And he said, "Hey, Josh, what'd you do this summer?" I said, "Oh, man, I had a great summer. I was on the beach at Grand Haven. I was bartending at night. It was just really, really awesome." I said, "What did you do, Josh?" He says, "Well, Josh, I went to India. I worked with Mother Teresa,
Oh my.
her organization, helping lepers get food and working out on street with street ministry." I was like,
Oh.
okay, yeah, my priorities are a little bit messed up. I think I need to, pivot a little bit. And that was the moment right there where I realized, hey, you know what? I could go through life. I could live for myself. I could probably make a lot of money, drive that Porsche that I'd always wanted, dreamed of driving. But there were a lot of other things in the world that had a lot more meaning and a
Yeah.
lot more depth to them than just filling up my bank account. So that was really the pivotal moment in my life.
Wow.
Yeah.
And what year in school were you then?
I believe that was between my freshman and sophomore year. So I would have been 20, maybe going on 21 at that point in time. So,
Well, I think there's a lot of kids at that age, sort of
yeah.
that would have just looked at that and said, "Oh, well, that's your thing, this is my
Yeah,
thing," and just let it go right past them. So it landed
absolutely.
on you,
It did. It hit
made a
me.
difference.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it made a difference.
Yeah.
And
Were
yeah.
you the kind of kid in high school that found themselves in leadership positions that others looked to as a leader, or was there a point in all of this where you decided to step up for things
I
and made yourself a leader?
Sure, that's a great question. I'm still not sure I'm a leader today, but I
Mm,
appreciate the nod. Um, in high school, I would say I fumbled around. I mean, growing up in high school, we're talking Generation X,
yep.
the late '80s or
Yeah,
early
I'm with you.
'90s, you know it. And you had the different cliques and the different groups, and I never really felt like I fit into one group or the other. Well, certainly was not considered a leader of any caliber, if you will. Um, so it wasn't until probably college when I started to come
Mhm.
into my own a bit. And then after graduating from Hope College, I took a position volunteering with AmeriCorps through it's a great program. And, I'm supposed to be a good Republican and praising President Trump with everything he does, and I admit I'm not. I'm kind of a pariah in that respect. And one of the programs that he cut when he first came into office was AmeriCorps, which, for those of you who are out there listening and are familiar with the Peace Corps,
Mhm.
much more popular and knowledgeable, excuse me, much more awareness about the Peace Corps. The Peace Corps was started by JFK in the 60s, and it was an opportunity for Americans to get out in the world
Mhm.
and make a difference. When Bill Clinton was president, notice I've mentioned two Democrats now, so the rhino statements are going to come out in the political spectrum. The Bill Clinton came up with the AmeriCorps program, which was an opportunity for Americans to give back to their communities
Mhm.
right here on this
Mhm.
side of the pond, if you will. And so I signed up shortly after I graduated, worked with Habitat for Humanity, and I was an on-site volunteer, working with other volunteers, leading them and doing construction,
Yeah.
which kind of leads into the construction side of
Yes.
things. And we figured out in that organization very quickly that while I enjoyed working with the volunteers and we got the job done and did some cool things, I was really wired much more for project management and for looking at the big picture
Mhm.
of the challenges that we had. And because of a great team that was open to some punk kid coming out of college leading, we ended up transforming that building cycle from one where we had fits and starts. We got through maybe, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 houses a year in a very long, drawn out period of time to doing between 12 and 15 houses on a very routine 16-week basis with volunteers, which was phenomenal.
Yeah.
And that was just, the way that I'm wired, the way that God put me together to be able to manage projects like that.
Well,
So
and to be
that's
able,
leadership.
and also just to be able to activate volunteers in a way
Yes.
that they, feel empowered to likely make some
Oh,
decisions on their own and keep
yep.
things moving.
Yeah.
So, prior to that, they obviously hadn't seen that style of leadership. It wasn't coming together in the same way.
Yeah, you could say that. Volunteers in West Michigan are phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
There is such a caring, generous community out there, and you mentioned, and I'm sure we'll talk about it a little bit more later. That there's, it's a few people that show up every
Mm-hmm.
time, but there are also projects like Habitat for Humanity where it's painting, where it's putting siding on, or doing roofing, landscaping,
Mm-hmm.
things that you know. I don't want to say the everyday person because nobody's an everyday volunteer. Volunteers are spectacular people. But people feel more empowered and they
Yeah.
can come out and do that. So Habitat was one of those organizations where it was just a matter of getting people in the
The
right
right
spot,
seat.
in the right
Yeah.
seat on the
Yeah.
bus, to
Yeah.
use the analogy from the
Yeah.
business world. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, the two intersect quite regularly,
they
which is,
do.
probably a perfect segue into
Yeah,
talking about how Brugger House Builders came about,
sure.
and what it means to be a part of a family-run business
Yeah.
and all the things
Yeah, all
that
the
come
challenges
along.
and blessings that go along
Yes.
with it. Yeah, you
Yes.
bet. So, growing up, as far as construction goes, and then the Habitat for Humanity segue, my dad was a high school teacher, and high school teachers did not make a lot of money. We were a one-income family. Um, he would, in the summertime, pick up extra handyman or construction projects. Sometimes it'd be building a small deck for a neighbor, or some other times it'd be scraping and painting a house or doing something with windows. And so I would every once in a while follow
Hmm.
along, tag along with him, make a little bit of money sometimes, just get some experience sometimes. And so that instilled in me a couple of different things. One, it's a work ethic to get
For
out there at a
sure.
young age and do it, and to know that hard work does pay off.
Yeah.
The second thing, too, growing up in a family that didn't have a whole lot of money, and go back another generation, my grandfather was a tool and die guy for Gardner Denver, which is a manufacturing company. It
Hmm.
used to be based in Grand Haven. They're still around. They're out, I think, east now. But at any rate, blue collar, not a whole lot of money. So when you needed to fix something around the house, you didn't call anybody
Right.
because you
You
couldn't afford to pay
figured out how
anybody.
to do it
So you
yourself.
figured out, and this is before YouTube existed.
Yeah.
So sometimes you made a few mistakes along the way, but you jumped in and you gave it a try. So that would be the construction background to a degree, and just the life skills and the passion to
Yeah.
jump in and do it.
Yeah.
And that led to Habitat for Humanity while I was there. Ended up realizing, hey, I could do this thing for a living. I could be a builder.
Yeah.
So my dad was looking at retiring from teaching at that point
Hmm.
in time. I was just fresh out of college looking at construction, and Dad could not afford to retire. And so I said, hey, why don't you and I go and get our builder's licenses together? Let's take the class, let's
Yeah.
take the test and see what happens. We both signed up for the same class. I drove to Grand Rapids, sat in class with my dad once a week to do this. And I can't remember how long the program was, 6 to 8 weeks. But
Yeah.
eventually we both finished. We both took the builder's license exam, and we got licensed right then and there.
That's great.
So
That's great.
yeah, cool story.
So, and today you run that business
Yeah.
alongside all the other things you have going on, but you run that business, and it's primarily renovation
Yep.
work. So, you're preserving history,
You got it.
going right back to that, degree in poli science, and,
Yeah.
when you're stewarding the past
Sure.
to move it forward, right?
I love that. I love that connection. That's
Yeah.
great. Yeah, and that really is what we do. We are more of a restoration company. We work on older homes, either restoring what was there with today's building materials, so that someone who looks at the house has to kind of look twice and go, wait a minute, that looks new, but that's really old. And that's a great compliment for us.
Yeah.
Same thing with additions. We'll put an addition on a house and expand floor rooms, because people like the open floor plan concept.
Yeah.
And we'll do that from the inside and the outside. We just want it to look like it all goes together, as if that just might have been there 100 years ago.
Boy, that brings about some challenges in craftsmanship, I would imagine.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
One of the running jokes when you do renovation with those of us who are in this line of work, you don't bring a level in.
No.
You leave your plumb bob at home, because if you make something plumb and level and perfectly square in an old house that's 100 years old, it's going to stick out like a sore thumb.
Yeah.
You've got to follow the contours of those who came before you, and as time has worn something down or over or sideways a little bit, you've got to work with what you've got right there on site to make it actually fit and make it look good.
Boy, it's got to be a big surprise, the kinds of things you uncover in that process.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun. Actually, I just had a friend of mine. We happen to have a boom lift, it's called, with the company that we picked up a few years ago, and I loaned it to a friend who's working on his house downtown. He sent me downtown Grand Haven. He sent me a photo of a newspaper clipping from something like 1917 that he found in the wall
Oh my gosh.
while he was pulling old siding off. And so it's treasures like that we
Yeah.
find every once in a while in a wall or in a foundation somewhere.
That's
We found a
cool.
mummified cat once. That
Oh.
Probably not the greatest thing you
No,
want to find there.
probably
Yeah.
not.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah. No, it's a lot of fun surprises.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
and I think for the homeowner, every
Every horse?
house
Yeah.
has a story to tell.
Sure does.
And so, when you start uncovering walls and
Yep.
foundations and things like that,
Yeah. You do.
you start to hear the story that the
You
house has to tell.
you absolutely do. We have worked in older homes in downtown Grand Haven where you remove the plaster and the lath and you find charred wood and you realize, wow, this house at one point in time caught on fire.
Yeah.
There's a story to tell. Or, as we learned with one of the houses in downtown Grand Haven, it wasn't on fire, but the house next door burned down. And the
Oh.
builder used the wood from the house that burned down to build the new house next door.
Oh my gosh.
So it's crazy stories like that
Yeah.
that you run into. And I love new construction, and shout out to those who are building new homes, especially when we need more housing that's affordable in West Michigan, which we can talk about in a little
Yes.
bit. But they do a great job, but it's an absolutely different animal when you're
Yeah.
starting from the ground up. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, what have you learned about leadership over the course of, starting with AmeriCorps,
Yeah.
leading volunteers, now leading your team
Yeah.
through BruggerHouse? Certainly, we're going to have the same conversation as we look into public service. But, as we look at your role in BruggerHouse, what have you learned about leadership that is really beneficial to you today, just both from the perspective of project management and running a company? I mean, you didn't go to school for business and you're
Right.
running a company now. And, like many other people, certainly that I'm talking to on the podcast, but that we all meet in the world, they end up owning or running a business by accident to some degree. You're following
Sure.
your dreams
Yeah.
and you develop these skill sets, and sooner or later it's like, oh, I'm a CEO.
Yeah.
Whoopsie daisy.
How did this happen?
How did this happen?
Yeah.
So what have you learned along the way that really just has served you well?
Yeah. Great question. And absolutely, from a business management standpoint or finance and accounting, I didn't have a
Yeah.
background in that. I took a number of business classes at Hope College and a few financing ones,
Sure.
but just a gloss over. And when you do wake up one day, 15, almost 20 years later, and go, wow, I've been doing this a while. How did this happen? The most important thing to me that I've learned along the journey when it comes to leadership is respect individuals who have gone through the process. I think of, and I'll put building aside and I'll give an example of let's say you grew up in a family and they own a manufacturing company. And at times, and more power to them, you'll have the owner of the company, son or daughter, who will grow up doing what I did, bartending at the restaurant downtown, having a great time, taking these fabulous vacations, and then they go off to school, and then they get their MBA, and then they come back, and the parent says, hey, I want you to run the company now. Well, that's great, and you have the qualification to do it, but when it comes to building the respect and the rapport of the people who work for you, I'd much rather be the guy who started out sweeping the floor, who then got promoted to cleaning the bathroom toilet, and then ended up out on the factory line, and then ended up in purchasing the materials or organizing that line, and just worked through the whole
because
process.
you then have walked all of the walks.
Absolutely. And when you have an employee or an individual in life that you run into who's going through a challenging time, you can go, yeah, literally, I was exactly where you are. I know what you're going through. Hang in there. So that's one thing. I think you just build on your experiences throughout life and seize those opportunities. So anybody out there listening, young people out there, don't be afraid to grab a broom. Don't be afraid to do that work, because I will tell you that people in the long run will respect you more for having done it. I will respect you right now for doing it. So that's one of the things. The other thing too is, I think as a business owner, and I've spoken with a number of other business owners, you hit a point where you realize you are creating opportunity for individuals to earn a living, or for individuals to provide for their family, or to find a passion that they may have. And when it comes to construction, there are loads of different opportunities for people who have an artistic passion, people who want to do finish carpentry, who want to do framing, who want to do whatever it is. Find that passion and allow them to create and to build into that space so that they can feel good about what they're doing. I want everybody to go home from one of our job sites, having worked with us, to feel really good about the experience they had,
Yeah.
to go home to their family, to not be exhausted from the day. I mean, maybe physically because construction is demanding, but to be able to clock out and to be able to go home and say, wow, that was a good day. It was
Yeah.
fun. I can check a box. I look at that thing I did. Look at that window that's now in there. Look at that cabinet that is perfectly plumb or whatever it may be in the space.
Well, it's nice that they get to see the finished product of their
yeah.
work and
Yeah.
really, enjoy that and feel like they can, they have
Yeah.
a great amount of pride.
know-
But also, I love the idea of being able to watch for those special skill sets
Yeah.
and being in a small business, actually being able to let people realize those dreams and knowing that part of your job as a leader is to make that possible.
Yeah.
And to make it possible in your organization without having to make it possible by them leaving
Yes.
is
Yeah.
is a beautiful thing that I don't think that larger organizations sometimes have the ability to do.
Yeah.
The path is a very straight line.
Yep.
If you're not on the straight line,
This is not the right place for you.
right?
Yeah.
But the beauty of small business is that you can be a little more flexible and you can let that path take different routes.
You bet. And as a I don't know, maybe this is the business owner for me crossing over with the guy who had the conversation with Josh about Mother Teresa and wanting to improve people's lives. I had a young man, for example, who graduated from high school, knew that he wanted to go into the trades. He wanted to work with his hands. Books were not his thing. And he came out and he worked on the job site with us for a little while. And the more I got to know him, the more I talked to him, I found out that he really enjoys auto body work. And I happen to know, because I'm a small business owner, an auto body guy who's a small business owner who would give his right arm to have somebody who actually wants to do auto body work. So I called up my friend and I said, hey, I've got a guy. He's a hard worker, shows up on time, not afraid to grab a broom and sweep.
Yeah.
But his passion seems to be working with metal. Would it be all right if I introduced you? And he said, absolutely, send him over. That was 6 years ago. 7, maybe. You know what? That was a while ago.
Right.
And I recently brought in my truck to have some work done on it, and that young man is right there.
Yeah.
And
That's great.
and he's really thriving where he is. So you've got to set aside your own selfish desire as a business owner to make a buck out of somebody's efforts or whatever it may be, to really genuinely invest in that individual to find the sweet spot for them.
And it's very possible that he would have been happy staying with you and doing whatever you asked him to do, because if he's got a great work ethic and he's trying to earn a living and he's a hard worker, he could be happy but he could be really happy doing what he's always dreamed of doing. So that's pretty awesome.
Yeah. So I don't know how that plays into leadership necessarily.
I think it does.
Recognizing people's innate skills and passions in their heart.
I heard a really cool interview the other day with Coach Izzo. And it was about how
Amy, did you just name drop there?
I did.
Was Tom sitting in this very seat?
No. I said I heard an interview.
Okay, all right.
Boy, I would love to have him here, but
we should,
no.
If our paths cross, I'll put in a word.
Thank you.
Right.
Yeah, that could happen.
Okay.
Anyway, I heard an interview, but he was saying that as a leader, as a coach, that your job is to help others make their dreams come true.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I thought it was like, oh, that really hit me. It was like, first of all, you have to know what they are.
Yeah.
You have to be open to knowing what they are, asking the right questions so that you truly get that. Because if you don't ask, they just, they're just come in, they do the work that you ask them to do or that they're, assigned to do. And you don't know what their dreams are. And so then sooner or later, if their dreams haven't been realized, then they leave.
Yeah.
So, but if you ask about those dreams, there's probably, particularly in a small business, there's a pretty good chance you can help that come to fruition in some way, shape, or form. Yeah. So it really hit me. And I think that, so to me, I think it has a lot to do with leadership, is just the openness and, willingness to sometimes hear what you don't want to hear.
Sure.
Like in this case, this guy left your organization, and that may have left a big gap in the organization, but
it's the right thing
to
do.
But you got to look at yourself in the mirror in the morning and know that you did the right thing for people.
Yes. And there's one of my, and this is just like a page out of Tom Izzo's book, which actually I'm going to reference a TV show from Apple TV, Ted Lasso.
Oh, my
One of
fave.
my absolute
Yeah.
favorites. And Ted is having, the character Ted is having a conversation with Trent Grimm, the
Yes.
reporter. And he says, I'm going to tell you something again, Trent, just so I make sure you hear me and that it wasn't a mistake. It's not about the wins and the losses. It's about helping these boys be the best version of themselves that they can be.
Yeah.
And that's what it is. And I'd say Tom Izzo has just said the exact
Yeah.
same thing.
Yeah.
Tom probably said it first. I think the character Ted Lasso probably picked it up from Tom. But at any
Yeah,
rate,
yeah.
that's what it's about.
Well, it's a good lesson, a very good lesson. Well, somewhere along the line, someone convinced you to open your heart to public service.
Yeah.
And and that's no small undertaking. So tell us about how that came about first and in what role.
Yeah. I've got to say that the public service, just like the individual who's sweeping the floor
Yeah.
and eventually ends up running the company. I'm not running a company. I'm not even running the county right now. I'm commissioner, one of 11. But it started out small for me. And for those of you listening out there who are younger or older, any age, and you want to get involved, it starts out small with volunteering. Find your local community, whether you're in the city of Grand Haven, go into City Hall and say, I want to help. What can I do? And you can volunteer on a board. You can volunteer to go out and do a beach cleanup. But once you get to know the individuals, as we talk about that, maybe 5 to 10% of the community that's actually getting out there and doing
Yeah.
these things, you find it's a pretty small network of people. And once you get to know them, other opportunities present themselves. So for me, it started out with volunteering on Grand Haven's Zoning Board of Appeals,
Okay.
dealing with housing and zoning issues, challenges. That's a pretty thankless job because I used to joke that it's the no board.
Yeah.
You people come with a special request and we read the zoning ordinance and say, well, the ordinance tells me I have to say no. I was not a good fit on that board because I'm the guy who wants to look for a way to say yes.
Yeah.
So I was thinking outside the box, and sometimes I would vote in opposite of where I was probably technically supposed to do so. But the individuals that I was spending time with recognized that my wiring might have been a little bit better for the Planning Commission. And so after, I think, maybe 3 years on the Zoning Board of Appeals, I spent 3, maybe 4 years on Planning
They're
Commission.
like, we got to get this guy
Yeah,
ahead of the train.
That's
because
yeah. Otherwise, he's going to cause a train crash.
Exactly,
Is really what it is. Yeah, he's trying to reroute the trains while
Yes,
they're already
exactly.
in motion. And the Planning Commission is a much more proactive
Yeah.
group of individuals who look at zoning issues, look at housing sizes, look at the needs of the community, and say, this makes sense in this area. This doesn't. That was a much better fit for me.
Yeah.
So I really enjoyed volunteering on that board. We made some great decisions, and probably some bad decisions too. I mean, it's going to happen. But one of the most beautiful things I remember about that board is there was a restaurant in town. I don't remember whether it was Wendy's or I don't know what one it was. It was a few years before that. But at any rate, there was a restaurant in town, and they wanted to do a new drive-through window, build a restaurant, and then do a drive-through window. And I remember at that point in time, I think we had little kids. And I remember thinking, when a little child walks out of the door on their way to the car parking lot in front of this drive-through window, are they going to get hit? How is that person coming through that drive-through going to know? So we wrote into whatever that plan was that they needed to have a very highly visible crosswalk with a little pedestrian crossing sign or something like that. And I know that made a difference because when I go through that drive-through, I'm aware that, hey, somebody might walk out of that door. A little kid might come running out. So it's those things like that where you go, yeah, I may have made a difference right there. Or crosswalks around the city of Grand Haven. Segue into, I guess, pedestrian crosswalks are kind of a big thing for me. When I ran for city council in Grand Haven in 2015, one of my big pet peeves was that we have a wonderful city, loads of tourists. We've got families who live here. We have very busy traffic in the summertime. And we had, I think at the time, 4 or 5 different pedestrian crosswalks throughout the city. Not a whole lot.
No, that's not very many.
They were all also marked differently with different crossing signs, different markings on the road. And I said, this doesn't make any sense. People think repetitively when you see a red octagon or whatever the stop sign, is that an octagon? How many sides are in a stop sign?
Octagon,
thing.
yeah.
When you see a red octagon with white letters on it, you don't even necessarily read that it's a stop sign, but you know what's coming. So we needed to standardize our pedestrian crosswalks throughout the city and create more of them. And I think by the time I was done with city council, we had probably quadrupled the number of pedestrian crosswalks. and we had
And
standardized
standardize them,
how
yeah.
they were to be
Yeah.
put in place. And I have since then seen more of them come up, and more of them with the little push buttons
Yeah.
that light up, and so kids can cross to get an ice cream cone at Norm's,
Yeah.
for example.
Well,
So those are the things where you get to go, wow, I made a difference.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and anybody,
Brand consistency.
brand consistency, I like that. Yeah,
Yeah.
anybody
It's a
can
good
do
thing.
this. Just
Oh.
got to step up and volunteer. That's kind of the way to do
Yeah.
it. So that's how I got started.
Well, sounds easy.
Yeah. Well, that was 20 years ago now.
Yeah.
So I guess as time goes on, in hindsight, it does seem pretty easy, but it is a time commitment, and that's one of the challenges. You do have to realize that giving back to the community has value. You have to believe that.
Right. Right.
I think we all see it, and we know it intrinsically, or maybe some don't, but you really have to genuinely believe that you can make a difference. And I'm going to tell you, and anybody listening out there, you can make a difference.
Well, it really goes back to, if not me, then who?
Mm-hmm.
And some people,
If not now, then when? And
right?
Finish the whole phrase.
That,
Yeah.
so for some people, that is an easy answer.
Yeah.
And for others, they're like, well, I don't really care.
Yeah.
Because it's not going to be me.
Yeah. You got, I think, credit to my family and growing up. So we've all been through this experience at some point in life, I imagine, where if you've walked in a large city or even in Grand Rapids and you've seen a homeless person, and they're either asking for money or they're just walking down the street. And, growing up, you're taught a couple of different things. One, ignore them. It's not safe. One, just don't make eye contact.
Right.
Just keep going. And in our family, I don't remember exactly if it was intentional on my parents' part or what, but we couldn't do that. I couldn't just ignore that person. At the very least today, I'm going to make eye contact with someone and basically to say, I see you.
Yeah.
You're a human being and you have value. Even that greeting ends up getting a smile sometimes. That's worth it. So if you see somebody on the street, at least acknowledge that person's presence, because sorry, I'm going to go to a different train here, and you can edit this out later if you need to. But my wife and I did some mission work in South Africa for a little while. In 2004, we lived there for 6, almost 7 months. And they have a phrase, and I think it's in Zulu. It's Sawubona. It's actually just a word, Sawubona, and I'm probably not saying it correctly. But it basically means Sawubona is I see you. Sawubona, I see you. And that's huge.
Yeah.
To be seen when you're an unseeable person, when nobody else knows that you're there and somebody acknowledges that you're a human being, oh my gosh, it has so much power.
Yeah.
So, Sawubona. For those of you who speak Zulu, please give me the correct pronunciation. Listening in, I'd be grateful.
Me.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. So, from City Council, is there another stop between that and
good
Ottawa
question.
County Commissioner?
So, in the background as well, other volunteer activities for those out there. There's a lot of nonprofit boards in the community, whether that's Habitat for Humanity, where I started, or the Salvation Army, or your church, or an affinity group, Rotary, the Grand Haven Chamber of Commerce. There's a bunch of groups out there that are doing good stuff in the community. One of the other organizations that I sat on the board for about 12 years was the Salvation Army, right here in town, and another great organization to be a part of. So while I was on City Council for Grand Haven, I was on the Salvation Army board. Toward the end of my term on the Grand Haven City Council, I decided I'm going to run for mayor. I'm big on term limits, and the mayor at the time, great individual, did some great things for the community, but they had been in the position for quite a while, and I thought, now it's time for us to, time for the baton to be passed, freshen things up a little bit. Some young punk kid as I was to think that I could do that. I ended up losing that election. The mayor at the time actually didn't win either. It was a three-way race, and one other individual won. Actually, Bob Manetza, who is our current mayor in the city of Grand Haven, won. After that loss, you pick yourself up and you go, well, God told me to run. He didn't tell me I was going to win. Knock on the door doesn't mean it's going to be opened. I ended up getting a phone call from, I believe it was our state representative at that time, Amanda Price, who had said that, or maybe it was Roger Bergman. I'm sorry. Again, it's the same 5 to 10 people that are in this thing. It may have been Roger Bergman who reached out to me, but at any point, somebody did. And they said, hey, we've got an opening at the county level for one of our boards. It was the Brownfield Authority and the Economic Development Committee, EDC. Can't remember exactly what it's called. And, with your experience in building nonprofit and, having volunteered and worked with the city, we think you'd be a good fit. So I was interviewed and appointed to that board where I served for 5 years, 2 years as the chairman eventually. We did some really cool stuff. The state of Michigan made a change to the Brownfield Act. Okay, I'm going to back into this and we may get in the weeds, but the Brownfield legislation, I can't remember what the Public Act number is. Sorry to Becky Huttinga, who's probably was listening. It was an act formed in like the late 70s or early 80s that said if there is a property that is a post-industrial property that has some pollution in it, the ground is brown, and we don't mean dirt brown, we mean more like oil or some contaminant is there.
Contaminated.
Then we'll allow cities, counties, and states to use some special financing tools to encourage reinvestment in that property, to encourage cleanup of that property so that it can be, from a county and government perspective, so that it can be put back on the tax rolls, but more importantly, so that it can be used to create jobs, so that it can be used to create a market and an opportunity in a community. In 2020 maybe, 2018, the state of Michigan passed new legislation that said, hey, we're going to expand what the Brownfield Act can do, and we're going to make it possible so that if a company, typically larger companies or even individual homeowners, want to build something and they're willing to make one or two of those units in a multi-unit building more affordable. I'm not talking about giveaway. I'm talking about workforce housing for our teachers. My dad was a teacher. For police officers, for our community service individuals, so that they could afford it. Then we'll allow you to use that same act to get some tax incentives to be able to offset the costs to do
So
that.
is this similar to what just came about with the Dake property?
Exactly what came about with the Dake property. We in Ottawa County on the Brownfield board that I was on, we did one of the first or second Brownfield TIF, it's called, for housing in the state of Michigan. And to be a part of that was so cool. It was actually a project over in, I think it was Hudsonville, that was done with Brownfield TIF money. So yeah.
in this instance, if I remember the information correctly, it's about a $10 million tax incentive for the Dake property to be able to be developed for affordable housing.
Yeah, you got it. And the Dake property was very polluted to begin with, so there's some contamination there. There's a housing affordability component. I will say, just because of who I am and the background I have, I do think that the Dake property owners should have and could have, and if you're listening in, should take a little step further, because there's some more affordable options that you can actually put out there for individuals to really make a difference. So whoever owns that, I don't know the name of the company, but if you're listening in, challenge you to make another couple percentage points there on that housing opportunity. So yeah, that Dake property is one of those examples, and it's just great to get more housing that is affordable on the market for people, because we have a supply side issue in West Michigan. I'm not
certainly a common topic here on this program. We've talked to several people. I mean, not only is the chamber, but economic development organizations, and everyone's sort of working toward the same common goal.
You got it, absolutely. And in the to the credit of those who have come before, whether it's MISHDA or federal housing programs, there are a lot of programs that have down payment assistance out there for especially first-time homeowners. The value of homeownership, as we know, is huge as far as creating wealth through generations. Go off on a tangent on that one. But there are a lot of programs to help out with down payments. The challenge right now is we really genuinely have a supply side issue. We need to do what we can on the backside to incentivize builders and companies and townships, different municipalities, to adjust their zoning ordinances to allow for more housing in the right places. And don't get me wrong, it's got to be right-sided. The community has to be behind it. Yeah, but wherever we find communities that are behind making a difference in the housing space, let's encourage them. Let's help them do it. Let's incentivize it to get done.
Yeah. When we talked earlier, you talked about the responsibility of, helping to create those opportunities for new housing to be created, but also having the responsibility of managing water resources, and that the two are often in conflict with one another. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. You bring up a great topic in Ottawa County. We just got done with our strategic planning, and there are various aspects to the strategic plan that we're looking at implementing over the next 5 years. We've actually got a shorter time horizon. We're looking at the next 3 years to try to really get some things done. Housing affordability and supply is on that list, but also on that list is water. Oddly enough, you wouldn't know it. But we live on the shores of Lake Michigan. We
Hmm.
have the Grand River on one side. We have Lake Macatawa on the south side.
Right.
Not that
Feels like
anybody's
the last place that
would have a
have
water
water
issue.
resource issues.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Not that anybody's drinking from Lake
No,
Macatawa or the Grand
but
River or
still.
Spring Lake, but yeah, water abounds. And
Hmm.
yet, we have a center, I'm going to call it a donut hole in the center of Ottawa County, and even parts a little bit further north, where when people are putting down their well heads, they're coming up dry. We interviewed a gentleman to be on our water resources board. He's a well driller out of Coopersville. And I said, I understand we have a water problem. I'm new in this role.
Hmm.
What's going on? He said, Josh, I get up to 10 calls a week in the summertime for wells drying up.
Wow.
And I said, well, what do you do? He says, well, we go out and we either put them deeper or we relocate them on the property. But I've got to tell you, it's what do you call it? Law of declining returns,
Hmm.
because you can only go so deep, you can only go so far out before eventually there's not any water down there.
Right.
And what we have in Ottawa County is the Marshall Aquifer. It's a glacial aquifer that's actually, I don't know the depth of it. I'm going to say probably 60 to 80 feet maybe. And if you're a well driller out there, you can correct me, please do. But it's down quite a ways underground, and there's a bit of a clay cap over it. So
So you have to get
water
past that.
very slowly over decades, over centuries, trickles into the aquifer. Well, that aquifer has not kept pace with the amount of water that we as West Michiganders have been pulling out. We're one of the fastest growing communities in the state of Michigan and one of the top 100 in the country for growth. If our cities are getting populated, people are moving out into the country. Farm fields are being turned into subdivisions. And it's wonderful, and we want people to enjoy West Michigan. But we have to recognize that that aquifer can only take so much. So we're going to be at a crossroads probably here in the next decade where we're going to have to make some difficult decisions, either on where housing can be placed, or this doesn't help the affordability quotient at all, but we're going to need to get more and more houses on municipal water, because we have in the city of Grand Haven, we've got a great municipal water service. In most of Ottawa County, the Wyoming water treatment plant is actually over in Kent County, but they draw water out of Lake Michigan all the way into Wyoming.
Wow.
They clean the water and then they send it back out. We're going to have to figure out a way to get more and more people hooked up to municipal water so that we can protect that water resource, especially for our farmers, who for them to be on municipal water with the amount of water they need is just really not economically viable. So one of the challenges we face right here in Ottawa County.
Yeah, that's a big job.
Yeah, for those out there, we could use a few more volunteers. And the 10% of the population that's
Yeah.
trying to do a lot of this work, we could use some help. So
Yeah, definitely. Well, I can see so many areas where your work with BruggerHouse is crossing over into your work, as a commissioner. What are some of the surprises that you can think of? Maybe what would be a surprise to me to hear where the two intersect that maybe, that we haven't heard about or that we
Yeah.
wouldn't think about.
uh,
And maybe it's just in, kind of trying to create a common path forward or, things like that.
I think I'm trying to think of the curiosity ones where they intersect, and I'm drawing a blank right now. But the ones that definitely overlap that are relevant to today, when it is a housing crisis, when there are zoning challenges, I'm just really grateful for the opportunities I've had to learn
Right.
along the way these last few decades, and to be able to apply what I've learned to benefit communities and to benefit individuals that I won't even know.
Well,
that are
you're
gonna
clearly
come.
the kind of guy that's looking for solutions, right? That's not just out there saying, well,
Yeah.
you got to deal with what comes at you
Yeah.
and
Good luck.
Right. Good
Yeah.
luck. You're someone who's trying to say, well, I can either look at this as a problem or I can look at it as an opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. That's
And-
it. There are a lot of opportunities out
Yeah.
there, a lot of challenges. One of the things that we're working on right now at the county is expanding our housing commission. Volunteer opportunity for those of you who have some experience in the housing space. We have, for the last, 20 years, had a housing commission that was following a state of Michigan statute that was created in part under this statute. Statute's a law that's passed because it empowered the county to be able to do Section 8 housing vouchers. Ottawa County has never done Section 8 housing vouchers. It's not a thing that we do in West Michigan. There are some nonprofits who do, and that's great, and they serve a purpose. But as far as the county goes, that wasn't something we were doing. And according to that statute, it limited the Housing Commission to 5 individuals.
Oh,
You're not going to solve the housing challenges in Ottawa County, just 5 people.
no.
So we actually, just at our last meeting, we voted to disband the original Housing Commission to create a new Housing Commission that will have, I think it's 11 to 13 members on it. And we are looking for individuals who have a lot of experience working in zoning, working in housing, working in financing, so that we can get in land development, so we can get all these people into the same room. We don't need to reinvent the wheel. The solutions are out there. People know them. And we just need to create an opportunity and a space for them to have these conversations.
Right.
So we're looking
Right.
forward to some good things coming out of that.
Yeah.
And that's one of the crossovers that I've had the benefit of being able to do is when you work in one space and there's a need in it at the county level, hey, that's great. I know Jim. I know Sue. I know these individuals who can come out and give us a hand.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So, is there a term on your county commissioner role?
Oh, gosh, yes. I have, not that I'm counting, 5 times 2, 7. No, I could count the days. It is a 4-year term.
Okay.
We were elected. The 11 of us were elected at the same time that the presidential elections take place. So the next presidential election is in, is it 2 years? 2 years and 6 months or something like that. That's when my term will be up as well.
Okay. And is it something that you can run for again?
Yes. Yeah. At the county level, there are not term limits.
Okay.
At the state level, there are term limits. So absolutely, we have been able to accomplish, many good things in the 18 to 20 months that we've been there, and there's much more to be done. So I plan on staying engaged.
Yeah, good for you.
For the near term, for sure. But just because there's a lot of work out there.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
Somebody's got to do it. And I will say this too: as soon as the new crop of commissioners got sworn in a year and a half ago, one of the things that I challenged each of the other commissioners to do is I said, be on the lookout for your replacement.
Yeah, absolutely.
No
Absolutely.
one should do this perpetually. We should all be looking for the next individual to pass the baton to.
Right. I mean, some turnover is a really good thing. It gives
absolutely.
you an opportunity to fill that gap with someone who has a new perspective.
It does.
So it's, I think sometimes we look at it as a bad thing because someone's stepping away. But at the end of the day, again, if you see it as an opportunity, it can be a really good thing for an organization.
Absolutely. Somebody new is going to come in with new ideas and new beliefs, new talents, new skills that are probably going to be up for the challenge of whatever that next day is.
Right.
In there. I will say one thing, and this is above pay grade for what I do as a commissioner, but when the state of Michigan, I think actually it went on a ballot initiative and we voted for it. Missed opportunity for us as citizens. We ended up the way that the cycles work out right now. It's all 11 commissioners are up for election at the exact same time.
Yeah.
And we don't do that at the federal level in the Senate. It's offset.
Right.
And so if there is a big turnover, as we had in Ottawa County 2.5, 3 years ago, it can be a huge institutional knowledge vacuum and a loss. And so I would love it if someday maybe I landed in a position where I could advocate for that change, or for those of us who are paying attention, advocate for that change, because when a whole group of 11 people could lose their seats all at the same time, or all decide, hey, I'm not running again, boy, that's a lot of knowledge. That's
well,
lost
and
there.
it just really slows down progress.
Yes, it does.
When you have to, when you have this ramp up and learning, that can be shared.
Yeah, absolutely.
If there's some carryover.
And it should be shared, and there should be, that baton should be passed on. And in a government, especially at the county level, I'd even argue at the state and the federal level, it should be boring. Yeah. It should be happening behind the scenes. In that we know this is so far from the truth, especially at the national level. It's a news cycle that used to be once every 24 hours, then it was 12 hours, then it was 6 hours on CNN, and it's it's tweets. Yeah. And we don't, as public servants, we don't need to be, and we shouldn't be in the news all the time. There's plenty to do. Yeah. We don't need to be talking about what we're doing. Just get it done. Yeah. Get to work. So anyway, come down off my list.
We like action.
Yeah.
I like action more than talk.
Absolutely.
Well, you have an opportunity, from in your role to see a lot of really encouraging progress. happening. It's fun to see, you out there for ribbon cuttings and all of those kinds of things.
Yeah.
What most excites you about the near future in Ottawa County?
Oh, Amy, those ribbon cuttings, I tell you what,
Yeah.
I just got to go off with one of the most encouraging, exciting things when a new business is opening up, when an entrepreneur has a dream that's coming alive,
Yeah.
or when a bike path is being opened that the citizens got together and said, hey, we think bike paths are important. We think community and building bridges are important. I was just at a ribbon cutting earlier this week, or it was late last week, with over a bike path over in Spring Lake. And a young man, I didn't remember his name, but he was maybe 7 or 8 years old, was standing in the audience, and he was there with his mom or grandma, and you could tell he didn't really want to be there. And, at these ribbon cuttings, typically it's somebody who donated the most money, somebody who gets to use the scissors. And I just spotted that young man, and I said, hey, the person next to me, can we ask him to cut the ribbon?
Yeah.
And he lit up.
That's really
cool. It was the biggest day of his life, and he got those giant scissors, and it took 3 times for us to get through the ribbon, but we eventually did, and it's just such a neat.
You won't forget that day.
I hope not. I won't forget that day.
Yeah.
That was a great day. So
that's really cool.
A lot of the exciting things in Ottawa County. I mean, we're looking forward to working on the housing issue, working forward to farmland preservation to balance those needs. Water resources as well. And I will say, and I know we've talked about the housing, it's kind of like that horse that we've dragged across the street a few times, but it's such a significant need right now. And I'm very encouraged that at the federal level, there is a bill that right now is stalled on the president's desk, which should not be. When you look at the numbers and how bipartisan that bill was, it's insane. The numbers are off the charts. That thing should have been signed the day it came across his desk. But if you look in that bill, and that was one of the first bills in a long time that I've been excited to read, there's a lot of substance there that can really make a difference. So I'm excited to see how that kind of trickles down from Washington to Lansing to Ottawa County, and then into the city of Grand Haven and Spring Lake. And city of Grand Haven, Spring Lake, these communities, we are already pioneering what's going on in the housing space. We're doing a phenomenal job. But
that's good to hear.
There's more that can be done, and I hope some of our other communities will come along to do that too.
So, the words that Josh said on that Hope College campus landed on you. What other messages have you received, maybe without even realizing, that have kept a place in your mind and helped you to make decisions?
Sure. I tell you one, my wife is a social worker.
Well, you both just line yourself up with thankless jobs.
Sign it. If there's a thankless job, sign us up.
Sign us up.
Absolutely.
I'm right
if you
here,
see
raising my
a social
hand.
worker out there, a teacher, a public servant, tell them thank you. Especially a city worker, a county, whatever, road commission, plow. Anyway, the list goes on. There are a lot of people out there that are in fairly thankless jobs. So when you see them, tell them thank you. So she's a social worker, and she's working with, call them littles. These are kids who are pre-K through 4th grade. And a lot of the kids that she works with are on the autism spectrum.
Okay.
There's also a lot of kids that she works with that have behavioral issues, challenges, if you will. And one of the things that she's taught me, and my eyes have been open to, and was further brought home at a fundraiser that I went to last night for Good Samaritan Ministries, you don't know the struggle that's going on in somebody else's life. And we all experience that. Heck, I experience it every day when I'm driving and I want to get somewhere, and there's somebody in front of me who's, I don't know, it's tourist season, so that maybe doesn't apply in Grand Haven. But at any rate, you just don't know what the other person's going through. And when you think about that through the eyes of a child who is, mom or dad is in jail, maybe somebody died in the family, they're living with uncle or aunt, they don't have a bed of their own. They don't have a place that they feel safe. And when they get to school and there are some behavioral challenges, and we are quick to react and say, knock it off, get your crap together, kid.
Yeah.
That kid may not have had food for 3 days or 2 days or whatever it may be. Just be aware.
Yeah, lead with grace.
Oh my gosh, lead with grace, absolutely. And that doesn't mean that there's not accountability, and we can't demand certain, behaviors and standards for individuals, but let's tailor how we get there to the needs of the individual that's in front of us as best we can. So that's another great take home, and I think that's good for all of us in life.
Oh, for sure.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah, and it goes back to you talking about finding a spot for that young man to realize his dream on the auto body side. It's just like, understanding, having an understanding for where everyone sits,
Yeah.
Where they are at the moment. And
Yeah, you got it. And look at that from a macro level.
Yeah.
At for me, the county level now, state level, for others, at the national level. America is really genuinely, it is a land of opportunity. But there are a lot of challenges that face individuals. And I love it. And I think government functions best when it provides a safety net and a level playing field so that everybody has an opportunity. And, the playing field we have to recognize is not level for everyone. And so we need to be aware of that, and we need to take the opportunity to do what we can to improve each person's opportunity in the United States. And it's generationally. So one of those things out there is, the thought that you're a young kid and you're in high school, you're in college, and you feel like, wow, I got to go out there and really do so. I got to make some money or whatever it is that your passion is. I've challenged our kids to look at it this way, guys, you don't need to shoot for the moon. Just do what you can where you're at. And if possible, try to maybe make a step better than what your dad did or what your mom did or what the generation before you did. It's incremental generational change. If we take a century or a multi-century look at things and you realize that the kid whose dad was cleaning the poop out of the horse stall, and the next generation, maybe he was a trainer for the horses, and the next generation, maybe that person could buy a horse.
Yeah.
And the next, maybe they bought a buggy, and so forth. And you just build one generation after the other. And eventually, I got to believe in a country like we have that everybody can get anywhere they want to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Agreed. Well, I think if we all ask ourselves the question of how can I make an impact, that it changes your perspective on the choices that you make and things like that. Well, you certainly have made an impact, and it's appreciated.
There's so much more to be done, Amy.
Oh,
but thank
goodness.
you.
Well, there always is, and you're one of those 10% people that step up. And
I don't know about that. I might be on the maybe 11%.
Yeah,
I'm
you
striving
think?
to
You
get
think?
into the 10.
Well, it's an exhausting job, and one that probably both tires you and inspires you every day. So
absolutely,
it's very much appreciated. It's really fun to learn about the different things that you're involved with, and what it means for our community. So thank you so much.
Thank you for the opportunity and for what you do to bring these stories out to individuals, out to the community.
Well, there's so much to be learned. From everyone, there is something to learn, and we just have to hear the stories.
Got to tell them.
Yeah, got to tell the stories. So here we are. Thanks, Josh.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for listening to Inspire West Michigan. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to follow or subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts, and leave us a review to help others find our show. Visit inspirewestmichigan.com and follow us on social media for more behind-the-scenes stories. Until next time, stay inspired, West Michigan.